Yeah, once again, lots to get to, lots to get to. What is it? Today's Tuesday, ain't it? I get my. That'll be my cats again. What have I told y'all? Every time I freaking go live, my cats do this. Every stinking time. What are you doing? I don't know. I don't know. I've prepared for it. I expect my cats to do something now. Anyways, yeah, we have a lot to get to this evening. How's everybody doing? I think today's Tuesday. Not 100% sure. Might be Wednesday. I don't know. My days run together, guys. My days run together. I think it's Tuesday. Let me give me 1 second, guys. Let me what am I trying to do here? Oh yeah, subscriber count. There we go. That's right. 13,590. Not too long ago, we hit 13,000. So we're actually having a really, really good month, especially when you take into consideration it's the freaking off season. Listen, call it Tuesday. Confirmed. Your boy Jay. It's Tuesday. It's confirmed. Today is Tuesday. Thank you. For March. All right. Let me explain something real quick. So for college football YouTubers, February, March, and April are down months. Not supposed to be doing well. February was the best month that I've had since probably September, and March is looking to be the best month since maybe August or July. So yeah, we're having a pretty good off season so far. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and call it and say, Golden Blue Dude rules the off season. How about that? I'll take that title in a heartbeat. How's everybody doing this evening? Y'all doing all right? Beginning of the work week, survived the weekend. Let's get into it. You already know what I'm going to talk about. Conference realignment. And the past, I don't know, couple months, the focus has been squarely on the Pac-12. Well, this evening, we're not just going to be talking about the Pac-12. No. More conferences. We're going to be talking about the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big X, and I think the ACC. I might be wrong. I don't know. And also the Big East. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Big East as well. Real quick, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. A lot of people think that's a pat on the shoulder. No. You're not giving a pat on the shoulder. You're just telling YouTube, hey, we kind of like this video. Tell other people about it. That way they can see it, click on it, and boom, that's how we grow the audience. So you're not just helping me, you're also helping yourself. On top of that, great way to support the channel, whether it's a comment, question, want to make fun of me, want to correct me, because I'll be honest, I do make mistakes. So you want to correct me, whatever you want to say, you want it on the screen, you want everybody to see it, you want me to address it, say your name, hit that super chat button. Little dollar sign that you see in the bottom right hand corner. Anything you put in that super chat is going to go right there on the screen, right where you see Gold and Blue Dude subscriber count, 13,590 strong. It'll go right there. And of course, all that stuff, greatly appreciate it. We always appreciate those donations. We always appreciate it just a smidge more in the off season. Even though we're having a good off season, I'm still going to say it. We still appreciate those donations a little bit more. So greatly appreciate those super chats, and it's a great way to get your point across to everybody else that is watching. We have a lot of people in the chat already. It is building. I love it. John Teal already with the $2 dono says, Kuzas said TNT might bail out the Pac. I'd sign. I looked into that. I don't see anything about that, but it wouldn't surprise me. I heard that Turner backed out December, whatever. But maybe since, this is the market, right? You buy low and you sell high. Right now, the Pac-12 is low. So that could attract other buyers. And if you're the Pac-12, you need to get as many linear cable partners as possible, even if it's just an extra game. Because what they're looking at right now is, with ESPN, one game a week. One freaking game a week. That's not good. Forget the money. The money's already not good. But forget that, okay? The biggest problem that I see with this TV deal is exposure. And I completely understand the argument that Pac-12 fans have of, it's all about academics and the association with Cal and Stanford. I understand that. But if you sign a deal that's not going to give your football team exposure, guess what? Recruiting going to go down. I don't want to see that for Utah. Okay? Utah has won the Pac-12 in back-to-back years. Back-to-back years. They're recruiting at a decent level. They're not like recruiting at Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, the elite SEC schools and soon to be SEC schools, or USC or Ohio State or Notre Dame. They don't recruit elite, but they recruit pretty good. They signed this deal with the exposure of only one game a week on linear cable. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. That is not a prediction. That's a promise. That's a spoiler alert. It will happen. Promise. And I've said this many times, but I feel like I have to keep saying it. Just because the Pac-12 is the center of this and most of this is negative does not mean that I want the Pac-12 to go under. No, I don't. I actually do want the Pac-12 to survive. Honestly, it is not in the best interest of my football team, West Virginia, for them to go out and get these teams out west. It hurts our schedule even more. It does. So I am not hoping for this. It's what the news is right now. It's what everybody's talking about, right? So if I were the Pac-12, I would be looking at multiple TV partners if possible. Okay, so if ESPN doesn't want to budge, that's fine. Let's look at Turner. Let's see if they, want to do something. Fox, they're off the table. Maybe they try to talk to them again, which, wouldn't hurt. Try again. Never know. Throw your lines out there, guys. Throw them out there. See who's going to bite. But I haven't found anything to actually, confirm any interest in TNT. But I will, whenever I'm done with this live show, I will look into that even more because, that's worth a video. It really is. So I'll look into it. And I do want to give Pac-12 fans some hope. Okay? Speaking of which, I heard on the Monty show that San Diego State has decided to accept the invite to the Pac-12. There's some good news, Pac-12 fans. There's some good news. Now, the way they worded it, I was like, what? Huh? What? Didn't understand it. So the way they worded it was San Diego State informs the Big 12 that they're going to accept the invite to the Pac-12. Well, from what I understood, the Big 12 wasn't interested in San Diego State. So the wording of that didn't really make much sense. I don't know. Maybe there was some backdoor interest. Maybe the Big 12 was talking, behind closed doors or whatever, not really letting a lot of people know about it. I don't know. But, yeah, that's the way they worded it. They said San Diego State informed the Big 12 that they're going to accept the invite to the Pac-12. Yeah, and yes, I know San Diego State's not a big brand. It's not going to make up for losing USC and UCLA. Not even close. Not even close. But the Pac-12 needs that Southern California footprint, that presence. That way they can keep recruiting at least halfway decent level in Southern California. And in order to do that, you got to have teams down there that are in the Pac-12. So, yes, it will help them as far as any group of 5 teams that the Pac-12 is going to pick up. San Diego State had to be number 1 on the list. Had to be number 1 on the list. Number 1. And it looks like they're going to land them. So there's some good news, Pac-12 fans, and it is good news. John Taylor, thank you for the $2 donation, says they need to play on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 Eastern. Well, you might get your wish. You might get your wish. I'm hearing it's possible we could be. Now, I don't know about on linear cable, but like on the streaming networks, they could be playing on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And so, if that's what you want, then that could happen. But as far as cable TV goes, right now, there's only one slot, and it's Pac-12 at the dark, and it's 1 week a week. 1 day a week. Excuse me, 1 day a week. So you need, if ESPN's not going to budge, and it looks like they're not, you need multiple avenues to get your brand out there. Otherwise, recruiting is going to tank. Absolutely tank. All right, so what was I trying to do here? Okay, so Good news for the Pac-12, right? San Diego State informing, whatever that means, informing the Big 12, hey, we're actually going to accept this invite to the Pac-12. But I'm also hearing that George Platkov still doesn't have anything new. He doesn't have anything new to present to the Pac-12 presidents. That's a problem because what he's presented already is not good. So this is from our, and I stress, favorite college football conspiracy theorist. So take it with a grain of salt. Says, hearing that GK is telling some of the PAC presidents that he may not have any new developments in the TV negotiations to present at next week's meeting. How many meetings has the Pac-12 had, by the way? Like, this makes like the, I don't know, 7th meeting in the past month. I don't know. Well, apparently they're having another meeting. One president is telling Big 12 contact that there is a feeling GK will ask for an extension on the April 15th deadline. So apparently he has nothing new to offer to the Pac-12 as far as the negotiations are going. So he's trying to buy some more time because they're wanting to see a deal like all the way around, not just what ESPN's offering. Okay, so what's the money from these other streaming networks? What's the total amount? Because that's the one thing that nobody's heard from. Nobody's heard what the amount from Amazon and Apple is going to be, and those will be the other two players in this conversation. Maybe George Platkov don't even know the numbers because it looks like he's going to try to buy some more time. So 7 meetings is going to turn into 9 meetings, is going to turn into 11 meetings, is going to turn into 15 meetings, and all of a sudden you're looking at like, okay, well, we got a week to figure this out. It's a week till our TV deal is up. Do we have a deal or not? Now, I don't think it would get down to that point. I think there is an actual deadline. And if the Pac-12 goes into the summer not knowing what their TV deal is, you will see, if they haven't already exited by then, you will see some mass exodus right there. Mass exodus. So the fact that the feeling around the Pac-12 is that he's going to try to buy some time, that's not a good sign. It really isn't. What about... Side note, and I have to get this out of my system. I did a video on this earlier in the day. What about this situation with Fresno State? So I did a video talking about how Fresno State saying, oh, it's been confirmed by our president that the Big 12 has been talking to Fresno State. All Fresno State sources confirming that, right? And then people were like, talking to our Big 12 sources, not so much. From the Swaim Show, which, by the way, I've been saying his name wrong. It's not the Swaim Show. It's not the Swam Show. It's the Swaim Show. And we've talked about that over Twitter. He's actually going to come on Going Unbluted. So my mispronunciation of his show booked him as a guest. I don't know what day yet, but he is definitely interested. So I will have the Swam Show here on Going Unbluted live. There you go. But he said, you've seen from multiple reports that the Big 12 is talking directly or through a third party with the Four Corners schools, with the Four Corners schools of the Pac-12. But I didn't report that, as one school had not been in talks. Now, I guess, update, all 4 schools are talking to Yormark one way or another. I'll get back to Fresno State. I kind of got off on a rabbit trail here. I'll get back to Fresno State. But this is about Arizona State. So a lot of people were saying that, the Big 12 was talking to Colorado, Arizona for sure. Utah was saying no. And then here recently, yes, they are. But then there was that one school that kept denying it. And that was Arizona State. And to his credit, the Swam Show backed that up. Said no, Arizona State was not talking to the Big 12. Now they are, apparently. Now they are. So this is what I like to do here at Going Unbluted on the live shows. I like to give you guys, the viewers of the live shows, a sneak peek into tomorrow's video. And we're going to talk about this again. So Arizona State looks like now they're interested, right? Now, I had this one. Hold on. I'm going to find it. I know I wrote it down. Where did it go? Dadgummit. You know, I write so many things down that sometimes I just flat out forget where I wrote it. There was this one thing. There was this one comment that I wrote down that was about Brett Yormark. Where did that thing go? I know I wrote it down. I know that for sure. Where did I write it down there? Dad, go. Oh, here it is. Nope, that's not it. Dang it. And it was about Brett Yormark taking a private jet. Maybe I didn't write it down. I don't know. Dadgummit. So I don't know it word for word, but basically, and I'll go back because I have it screenshot. Basically, the comment said they were hearing that George Platkov is taking a private jet to a university out west. They didn't know which particular university. I'm guessing, see, it wouldn't be Colorado and Arizona because those two have been talking to the Big 12 pretty much this entire time. So we're going by, basic deduction. A lot of people don't understand that, so they don't understand me, so they're not going to understand this. Feel bad for them, but it is what it is. You know who you are. So Arizona and Colorado, everybody's thinking that if there are some teams to jump to the Big 12, the first two will be Arizona and Colorado because they've been talking kind of out in the open, not really a secret, right? Utah was saying, no, we would never talk to the Big 12. We would never join the Big 12 because, they don't fit our academic standards. Well, their tune changed recently, right? So really the only team that I could figure would be Arizona State. And honestly, I was a little nervous about that. Now, don't get me wrong. Arizona is a good brand, especially in basketball. They would help the Big 12 tremendously when it comes to basketball, but their football brand is not so good. And the TV market that they carry is a step lower than Arizona State. So if this is true, if George Platkov is now meeting the president of Arizona State in person, that would be a tremendous get for the Big 12 because, believe it or not, I know Arizona State has been bad except for a year or two under Herm Edwards. The fan support not very good, but the bottom line is Arizona State carries the city of Phoenix. They have a larger TV viewing audience than Arizona. So if the Big 12 can lock them down, like that's the cherry on top of the pie, and it's a big cherry. It's a good cherry. So I'm hoping that's true. I don't know if it's true or not, but it kind of makes sense if you listen to what I just said from the Swam Show. He was saying, a lot of people were reporting that all four of the Four Corner schools were talking to the Big 12. I did not report that because there was one school that was not reporting that. But now all four schools are talking to the Big 12 in one way or another. So my guess would be Arizona State. That would be a huge pickup for the Big 12. And I kind of, I have to admit, whenever it wasn't looking good for the Big 12 as far as Arizona State goes, because they were very vocal about it, all right? So I'm going to openly admit this, all right? Whenever that was going on, I kind of low-keyed Arizona State because it just looked like they weren't going to make the choice to do that. So whenever that happens, you got to make it look like the brands that are choosing the Big 12 are better than the brands that are not choosing the Big 12. But in reality, as far as the football brand goes and as far as the TV market goes, Arizona State is the better brand over Arizona. So I'm actually excited about this. So it would be a huge TV market pickup for the Big 12. And this is like a side sprinkle note. Brett Yormark, of course, he wants the Pacific time zone, right? Well, with Arizona, you would technically get that Arizona and or Arizona State because they don't have daylight savings time. So you would get that Pacific time zone all the way through November. Now, you would want a brand that locks it in all year round. But, hey, if you can at least lock those two down, that would be a good get for the Big 12. So, in true Golden Blue Dude fashion, we are jumping all over the place here. So try to keep up. Next, let's talk about the Big Ten. This one really caught my attention whenever I saw this comment. And I will definitely do a video on this tomorrow. So this is a comment that I saw. Heard from another podcast, Peek Around the Corner, episode 114. So this is another YouTube channel talking about this. That Big Ten coaches are having a 10th conference game included in their contracts. What? Okay. This is an indication that they will expand beyond 16 teams and go to 377 for rescheduling, 3 rivals, and playing everyone else every other year. It means that they will add at least 2 more PAC teams and maybe 4. The Big Ten should ditch the conference championship game once there is a 12-team playoff. He might be onto something. It only limits the number of the teams you get into the playoffs. That's where all the money is. Think about the and you know, we're all very connected to the conference championships because we're used to it. You know, that crowns the champion of the conference, hence the name, right? And the winner of that game, as long as they don't have multiple losses, usually gets into the playoffs. And now with the playoff expansion, the top 6 champions are guaranteed an auto bid into the playoffs, and the top 4 get a bye week. So the only issue that I would have with this comment is ditching the conference championship, because that gets rid of an automatic bid, or a technical automatic bid. Now, I understand that Big Ten teams would still get in no matter what. It's going to happen. So the point is, the playoff committee would have to reword or restructure how the playoffs are worded as far as top 6 conference champions get an automatic bid, if that were to happen. Personally, I don't see the Big Ten getting rid of a conference championship game, but I just had to kind of dissect that and see if somehow, some way, that can make sense. I just don't see it. I don't see that making sense. But they're wanting 10 conference games, including in their contracts. That's a lot, guys. That is a lot. Think about this. So the SEC only has 8 conference games in their regular schedule, 4 road, 4 home. And for some of those teams, a neutral site game is counted as a home game one year and a road game the next year. So you have to factor in the neutral site games, a.k.a. the largest outdoor cocktail party between Georgia and Florida. So that counts towards one team one year, or a home game for one team one year and a home game for the other team the next year, even though it's really a neutral site game. So for the SEC, 8 conference games. For the Big 12 is 9 conference games, which is a lot. And honestly, I don't like it. The biggest problem that I have with West Virginia's schedule is kind of the biggest problem that people have as far as the opposite for a lot of other schedules. So the biggest thing that people have criticized Michigan for over the past couple of years is their out of conference absolutely sucks. Well, for West Virginia, it's been the complete opposite. We've had 2 out of our 3 out of conference games Power 5 opponents. Last year, both of them were on the road, at Pitt, at Virginia Tech. No, they weren't like Alabama or anything, but 2 Power 5 teams. That sets yourself up, if you don't win those games, for a letdown year. And what happens? We choked a game. We choked a game to Pitt. Yes, we should have won that game, and we choked it away. And 2 weeks later, we end up losing to a Kansas that we didn't know was going to be really, really good. And boom, our season was done after that. When we lost to Pitt and lost to Kansas, season over. So within the first 3 games, even though we ended up beating Virginia Tech on the road and went 2-2, our season was over. So I actually kind of like what Michigan does. They set themselves up to start the season undefeated, go into conference play hot, and then see what happens from there. West Virginia is the complete opposite. Well, if the Big Ten were to do that, they would only have 2 out of conference games and the rest conference games. Now, at first you'd be like, man, that's a rough schedule. But this is the Big Ten we're talking about. The Big Ten is very, very top heavy. So chances are, unless you're one of the very, very, very few unlucky teams, chances are by adding an extra game, you're adding one extra bad opponent or one extra mediocre opponent. So it's not a terrible idea. Not a terrible idea. It's just interesting. I don't think they'll do that, but I mean, and the thing that really makes me raise my eyebrow on that is they said the Big Ten coaches, do they actually have a say in the scheduling? That one's a little bit of a head scratcher. But see, I don't let, all those details get in the way of a good video or a good story. So I am still going to do a video on this tomorrow. Whether it makes sense or not, I never let that stand in my way. Hero75, thank you for the $10 donation, says, how the Big Ten kills the Pac-12. All right, he's going to explain it. Each team plays one Friday night game on Amazon/Apple. Would kill interest in Pac, test stream waters, use that money to pay for 4 more holy cow. Use that money to pay for 4 more teams to cover 10 weeks online. That last line made so basically like use their own choices against them. I love it. That's pretty funny. I mean, I say that tongue in cheek because at the same time it's not funny. I really don't like the Pac-12 being in this particular position, but things happen and it does make for great content. So, I mean, does this happen? Do these coaches really want 10 conference games, and do they actually get it? And even if they don't get it, okay, even if they don't, it could still mean that the Big Ten is looking to expand sooner rather than later. And I think they will. I do. My question isn't, are they going to do it? It's, who are they going to get? I think they're waiting on Kevin Warren to go to the Chicago Bears and to hire a new conference commissioner. You got to get that done first. After that happens, that's when I think we'll start seeing, the poaching of the Pac-12 teams really heat up. So to me, it's not, are they going to do it? It's when and who. I do think that Washington is a lock for the Big Ten. Washington makes, they make way too much sense. Way too much sense. They are the best brand remaining. They have the second highest TV ratings right behind Oregon. Oregon does have better TV ratings when it comes to football. They have the best academics. They have higher research revenue than Cal and Stanford. Think about that. That is tremendous. So they check all the boxes. They check the football box. They check the athletics in general box. They check the size of the fan base box. They check the viewership box. And they check the academics and the research revenue box. Seattle TV market. There you go. That's all you have to say. Seattle TV market, one of the biggest in the entire nation. I think it's top 10. If not, it's at least top 15. So Washington, lock. Done. There's no way they're going to overlook Washington. A lot of people think it's Washington and Oregon. I don't think it's Oregon. I don't think Oregon is at the top of the list. I know Oregon does have the best TV ratings when it comes to football, but their academics, compared to the rest of the teams in Pac-12, it's actually not that good. I mean, the fact that they're in the Pac-12 means it's good, but compared to the other teams in the Pac-12, it's not good. Well below Washington, well below Cal, well below Stanford, and below Utah. So I would put Washington and Utah above Washington and Oregon. I would put Cal and Stanford above Washington and Utah, because an extra box that Stanford and Cal check are travel partners for USC and UCLA. Don't forget about that. So I would put Washington and Utah above Washington, Oregon, Stanford and Cal above Washington, Oregon, Washington and Stanford above Washington, Oregon, and let's see, is there anybody else? Maybe even no. Washington and Oregon number 4. So, do I think it's possible that Washington, Oregon get the nod? Yeah, it's definitely possible. Definitely, 100%. Yes, it wouldn't totally. Oh man, I didn't see that coming. They picked up Washington and Oregon. No, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm just saying on my particular list, as far as checking the boxes for the Big Ten, number one would be Washington and Utah, actually, or Washington and Stanford. One of those two, interchangeable. And then Stanford and Cal, and then Washington and Oregon. So Oregon just don't have the best academics in the Pac-12. And if you don't think that matters in the Big Ten, you are sadly mistaken. Because like I've said many times, the Big Ten is like a Commonwealth conference. Once you enter the Big Ten, everybody shares their resources with everybody. So the better resources you have, the more valuable you're going to be to the Big Ten. Yeah, more valuable you're going to be to the Big Ten. So yeah, they are very valuable. And I know Stanford and Cal, that particular combination, not great in academics. But if you look at Stanford, when they get the right coach, they actually can put out a really good football team. And they actually recruit better than people realize, surprisingly better. So they're capable of having, a good football team and drawing some viewership. And then, of course, elite academics. And then, of course, the travel partner for USC and UCLA. Very important box that they check that a lot of people forget. John Teal, by the way, if people don't know this, I don't know if I've actually said this or if people can tell this by his comments, but John Teal is actually a fan of the Pac-12. So it really, I'm really humbled whenever I see a Pac-12 fan comment, not only commenting on my live show, but actually super chatting. So, we have over 13,500 subscribers from all over the entire nation. I have Arizona subscribers, USC, Oregon. So every time I see that, I'm like, man, I can't believe this. Dream come true, guys. John Teal, thank you for the $5 donation. Says, our ideas for the ACC to take 4 Northwest teams plus Stanford and Cal. Why couldn't the SEC make that move? That gives them Florida, Texas, California, and blocks the Big Ten. I understand what you're saying, but there's a big roadblock right there. And that's the regional aspect of the SEC. Whenever they do finally expand, if you notice, it's not by a significant stretch. It's little by little. I mean, their region most certainly is now officially outside of the southeastern part of the United States. I mean, they have the states of Missouri. They now have Oklahoma. They've had Texas. I mean, they are not fully SEC as far as southeastern part of the United States. I do expect the SEC to expand, but they're not going to grab those teams. That's not going to happen. I'll say this though, I do think that there's a small chance that the ACC could get those Northwest 4 and Stanford and Cal. That would actually solve a lot of impending problems. What do I mean by that? Well, I think there's going to be some teams that get out of the ACC, okay? I think that's going to happen. But if you add these teams, not only will you sustain the money that you're making, it'll probably bump it up a little bit. And these teams, we're talking about Oregon, Washington, Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford, and Cal, they're getting out of a Pac-12 that's about to sign a ridiculously terrible TV deal and get into a conference that's going to pay them more and give them more exposure. So the choices for these Pac-12 teams does not include the SEC. For the Northwest 4, it's probably going to come down to, if they do in fact leave the Pac-12, it could come down to the Big Ten and the ACC. And you know what, with the ACC, it depends on how many teams jump. Because from what I've heard from the very beginning is it's either 8 or 9. Some people have told me 8. Some people told me 9. 8 or 9 teams to come together and vote and put pressure on, especially on the North Carolina schools, to break those granted rights, and that's a way to get around the granted rights. Now, if that happens, how many teams actually leave? Because if 8 teams leave and 6 teams come in, is that enough to have a decent TV deal? Is that enough to have a better TV deal than if you were to stay in the Pac-12? Let's say nobody leaves for the Big 12 in this particular scenario, but 4 go to the SEC and 4 go to the Big 10. So let's say Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, and Georgia Tech to the Big 10, right? And then Miami Hurricanes, Clemson, NC State, and Virginia to the SEC, right? So that leaves Wake Forest, Boston College, Syracuse, Pitt, Louisville, and Virginia Tech. That's 6. You bring in Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford, and Cal. So this is what the ACC looks like, all right, compared to what we have now. Tell me if they would receive more money than what the Pac-12 is looking at right now, or more than what the ACC is looking at right now, all right? Let's say the future ACC looks like this. Try to picture it, guys. Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington, Washington State, Stanford, and Cal. I think the answer is yes, but only because of how bad the deal is for both the Pac-12 and the ACC right now. Y'all have to realize ESPN got one over on the ACC. I mean, they really got one over on the ACC. They got the ACC on a cheap budget, very cheap, pennies on the dollar. So what I'm thinking, if they are able to break this grant of rights, bring in these 6 teams, I do think they would be able to renegotiate a deal to where it's more than what the ACC is getting right now. That's not saying, listen to me, that's not saying that I think it's going to be as much as an SEC deal or a Big Ten deal. But in the neighborhood of $40 million per team per year, I could see it. I could see that. You would still have brands like Oregon, Washington, Louisville, which was 4th in television ratings in the ACC over the past 8 years. Only 1 of 4 teams to average 2 million views per game when it was nationally televised. All right, so we have Washington, Oregon, Louisville would draw in some numbers. Virginia Tech is a decent one. And believe it or not, Syracuse, especially if Syracuse got good. Syracuse actually has the largest fan base in the ACC, not counting Notre Dame. They have a lot of potential, but they have to figure things out in football for that fan base to care, because that's really the only time they care. So, yeah, I think that's enough. I mean, seriously, the Pac-12 right now, they shouldn't be in the position that they're in because they have premier brands. The Big 12 does not. If these teams were to go to the ACC, well, even with the ACC losing all these other teams, you'd still have Oregon and Washington, 2 premier brands. That is good enough to negotiate a deal that's near $40 million, as long as you have a competent commissioner that doesn't take a stupid deal again, like the previous ACC commissioner. Man. Hero 75, thank you for the $5 donation, says, not sure if true. Hey, doesn't matter, right? We like talking about rumors. Rumor that Clemson is working AAU. They believe it is likely that the SEC will not take them, so they are preparing a case for the Big Ten. I can believe that Clemson is trying to get AU status. That part I can agree with. But the part where I would be like, I really don't see that, would be the SEC turning Clemson down. I don't see that. Here's why. I don't think that Florida State wants to go to the SEC. They are actively pursuing AAU status to get into the Big Ten. And honestly, the Big Ten could help them get that because they want a footprint in the state of Florida. So with Florida State choosing the Big Ten, because y'all have to realize there's some bad blood. There's some bad blood between Florida State and the SEC. That's why that's not going to happen. The SEC turned Florida State down multiple times whenever they applied. And then whenever the SEC did offer Florida State actually chose the ACC invite. So there's some friction, there's some bad blood, and Florida State would more likely go to the Big Ten. So because of that, they're not going to turn down Clemson. They want the best brands left, so they're going to take. They would probably take Clemson, Miami Hurricanes, NC State, and either Virginia or Virginia Tech, depending on who the last team the Big Ten gets. So, I mean, maybe Clemson is going after AAU status, but I don't think that I don't think that they believe that the SEC would turn them down. Guys, I'm going to do a live show at Clemson Memorial Stadium just like I always do. And the reason I'm bringing this up is Clemson did some renovations on their stadium, okay? So I've been to Sanford Stadium. I did a video there talking about Georgia whenever I went over to Uncle Lou's to watch a game over there. He lives near Athens. So I saw their Jumbotron. And I've seen the before Clemson did renovations and the after. And I'm telling you, it's almost like a carbon copy of Georgia's Jumbotron. If you went to Clemson before the renovation and after the renovation, that it looks a lot more like an SEC stadium. It literally looks like they're preparing for the SEC. John Teal, thank you for the $2 donation, says, I like that. I like that Big 12 isn't enough. 16 gives 4 pods. Did you mean Big 12 or Big 10? Kind of confused on that one. I like that. I think Big 12 isn't enough. That one word is confusing me. BUTB. What is it? What word were you trying to say there? 16 gives 4 spots. Are you saying 12 teams for the Big 12 isn't enough? They need 16 teams? I would actually agree with that, especially with the pod systems, because you got to realize the Big 12 is very spread out in nature. You have the core, which is your Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Baylor, Texas Tech, and Houston. And then you have the Western team that's kind of separated from everybody else in BYU. Then you have Cincinnati and West Virginia up here in the Northeast, and then UCF way down here in Florida in the Southeast. So if you could add 4 teams kind of in the middle right there, that would kind of gel some or connect some of these teams to everybody else, and then create pods. That would be a perfect situation for the Big 12. Hoghead with a great, amazing $20 super chat donation. Appreciate that, buddy. Says, enjoy talking with you at the Slobs. Hope you are at softball. I will be at the softball. Last year, I was at the softball game, and I was on the losing team, and it was freaking hot. One of the guys had heat exhaustion, got sick to his stomach, all that stuff. And I was literally pouring water over my head every 20 seconds. That's how hot it was. But yes, it was amazing to meet you as well. And I will be at the softball game, so we can hang out there as well. Hopefully we're on the same team, and hopefully we actually win this year, because we were close. We were close to winning that game. We should have won that game. We had a 1-run lead in the bottom of I think we went to 6 or 7 innings, or maybe 5. And of course the other team came back and won. But I'll be there, and I look forward to seeing you again, buddy, and really appreciate the super chat, man. Awesome support of the channel. John Teal, thank you for the $2 donation, says, add Notre Dame and Boise State plus 2 more for 16. That definitely can't be the Big 12, because Notre Dame, I'm telling you right now, Notre Dame would never, ever, ever join the Big 12. And I have Notre Dame subscribers. They already know not to take this the wrong way, but Notre Dame thinks, and to be honest with you, they know they're too good for the Big 12. We would need some premier brands and some academics to boost up our academics for Notre Dame to ever think about joining the Big 12. Just like I was talking about last night, if I were the Big 12, I would have chosen Boise State or Memphis over Houston, not because I don't like Houston, because they have Dana Holgorsen, that he's not going to be the coach there forever, so it's not part of the argument. We get to play them in Houston this year anyways. which is pretty cool. But the reason that I would take Boise State or Memphis over Houston is because the Big 12 already has 3 schools in the state of Texas, so it's not getting you a new footprint. I understand they're in the top TV market, but they really don't draw a lot of that. Most of that TV market are either Texas fans or Texas A&M fans or professional football fans. They don't care about Houston that much. Memphis gets you in the state of Tennessee. They would have been a bridge university between the core of the Big 12 and West Virginia. Boise State, I think people actually do watch Boise State. They don't have a massive fan base, and the footprint in a new state really isn't a good argument here because it's Idaho. I mean, that's not that big a deal. But I think Boise State is an up-and-coming brand. They have a lot of success, and I think they would have had more value than Houston. You can throw tomatoes at me, you can boo me, whatever. That's just where I stand. So I like the Boise State pick, and it's kind of a shame because now that the Pac-12 is on the menu, Boise State is dropping because the Pac-12 is not taking Boise State. That will never, ever, ever, ever happen because of academics. So Boise State's only chance of getting into a Power 5 is the Big 12, and their biggest chance to get in the Big 12 was this past go-around whenever the Big 12 lost Oklahoma and Texas, but instead they chose BYU, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati. I would have chosen, you ready? I would have chosen BYU, Boise State, Memphis, and UCF. Because the reason that the Big 12 picked up Cincinnati is, yes, it's close to West Virginia, and we appreciate that. And yes, Cincinnati is the only Group of 5 team to ever make the playoffs, and they were having a successful football program. But Luke Fickell is gone, and Cincinnati making the jump to the Big 12. They're going to take a significant step backwards, and Cincinnati University, or the University of Cincinnati, however they word it, I'm not sure, does not hold that market. The Ohio State controls the entire state of Ohio, including most of Cincinnati. You would have gotten a larger TV market as far as actual viewership from Memphis, and Memphis has been solid as well in both football and basketball. Not as much success as Cincinnati, but at the same time, they didn't just lose the coach that got them to where they're at right now. So if I would have been the Big 12 and I would have picked up 4 teams last go around, I would have went Boise State, BYU, Memphis, and UCF. Love it or hate it, that would have been my choice. John Teal, another $2 donation says, or Notre Dame, Tulane, San Diego State, and Fresno State. Actually, that looks like a deal for the Pac-12. I think the Pac-12, that would be good if they could somehow reel in Notre Dame. Of course, never going to happen. But the rest of those, perfect for the Pac-12. San Diego State, who said today that they informed the Big 12 that they're accepting the invite to the Pac-12. We're like, okay, congratulations, right choice. Weren't really interested in you. Fresno State, another footprint in the state of California. Tulane, AAU status, footprint in the state of Louisiana. If the Pac-12 isn't at least think about this. If the Pac-12 isn't at least talking to Tulane, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? That is a great recruiting hotbed right there. You're having a footprint in a state next to a team that you're wanting, SMU. So if you're going to get SMU, why not get Tulane? Travel partners right there. Great academics. They just had a really good football season. Beat USC, who is the team that screwed the Pac-12. Think about this. USC told the rest of the Pac-12 they were ready to expand. USC was like, don't do it. Trust me, guys. We don't want to expand. And what happens? Then they leave to the Big Ten. USC most certainly screwed the Pac-12, and Tulane beat them last year. That should be extra bonus points, right? If the Pac-12 is not talking to Tulane, what are you doing? What are you doing? John Teal, another $2 donation says, no, I mean those 6 ACC and 6 PAC teams. Oh, like kind of like a merger type of thing. I could see that. So maybe. And you know what? If they did that, what if What if that attracted Notre Dame? What would the ACC? This is a question worth asking, guys. What does the ACC need to do to get Notre Dame to actually commit to the ACC? Because if Notre Dame ever actually committed to the ACC, that would change everything. That would change everything. That would ensure 100% guarantee that the ACC would survive and would be that third conference. The ACC is one decision away from one team becoming a full-time member, and Notre Dame from being a solid conference that's not going anywhere anytime soon. And yeah, ESPN would be like, oh, yeah, we will renegotiate this TV deal for sure. And then they would probably try to build the ACC just like they're trying to do with the SEC. See, right now, ESPN, they're glad that they got pennies on the dollar from the ACC, but their baby, their pride and joy is the SEC. So if these teams do get disgruntled and decide to try to blow up the grant of rights, they're going to try to get the best teams into the SEC, because the ACC is kind of an afterthought to ESPN right now. But if Notre Dame joined the ACC, it would not be an afterthought anymore. One letter, B. Thank you for the $2 donation. Says, did you see the Mountain West Conference Commissioner on the Monty Show? No, I did not. Was that today, yesterday? Because I did not see that. Looks like Jason Moore has a prediction. Thank you for the $2 donation. Says, West Virginia to the Big Ten has been confirmed. Gold and blue. Yeah. Out of all the crazy things that will never happen, that is the craziest thing that will the most never happen. West Virginia would never. Yeah, they wouldn't even pick up the phone and think about it. They wouldn't even be like, nah. No, they wouldn't even go in that direction. West Virginia doesn't have near the academics that the Big Ten requires. And B says it was today. I'll have to check it out because I did not see that. I'm hoping to get the Monty Show on here as well. I don't know if y'all heard me earlier, just in case you weren't watching earlier. So it's funny. A mispronunciation of a name actually got me a guest on the show. So I've been making videos and talking about some of the tweets from the Swam Show. And for whatever reason, I was calling him the Swam Show. The Swam Show. What did I say your name wrong? I thought I said Moose. My bad. Hold on, Jason. I thought I said Jason Moose. What did I say? Let me see what he said. Hold on. Give me one. I'm going to get back to that. That's what I thought I said, Jason Moose. If I didn't, sorry. Jason Moose, thank you for the $2 donation. But anyways, so I mispronounced the Swam Show, not the Swamp Show. And so he sent me a message on Twitter. He's like, hey, man, appreciate the exposure on your channel. Love your show, but you mispronounced the name of my show. It's the Swam Show, not the Swamp Show. I was like, oh, man, I'm sorry, my bad. I like your show as well. I was like, hey, man, if you ever want to come on the live show, we'll make it happen. He's like, hey, just let me know the time. So, boom, a mispronunciation on a show got me a good guest. So we will get that locked down and have the Swam Show here. I'm going to try to get him on this week. If not, it'll be next week. But I think the sooner the better, because right now the hot thing is, the Pac12 and conference realignment. And, of course, that's what he likes to talk about as well. So I think it would be a good 1-2 combination of entertainment, because that is the point of Gold and Blue. If you don't understand it by now, I am making it crystal clear. Entertainment. News, rumors, speculation. I don't do predictions anymore because I learned my lesson on that. There's no such thing as a sure thing until it actually happens. Even if you think you have the best of the best sources, doesn't matter. Even they can be wrong. So it's all about entertainment. So as long as you're entertained, you've forgotten about your troubles, even if it's just for a few minutes, and focus your attention on making fun of me, then I've done my job. Okay? If you're making fun of me, then I've actually done my job, because I've made you forget about your troubles for a few seconds. So there you go. There you go. But we're going to have him on the show, and I'm pretty excited about that. Pretty excited about that. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy that live show. So to recap real quick what we talked about. Oh, Fresno State real quick before I forget about this. Fresno State. So Fresno State sources were saying that it was confirmed by the president of Fresno State, Salavando, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, that Fresno State has been talking to the Big 12 for sure. But then I heard from all the Big 12 sources, including the Swam Show, saying, no, everybody we've talked to said they can't confirm that. Well, if you look at the article that I screenshot and put on the screen whenever I did that video, they kept talking about this tax bill. Tax bill was turned down. Tax bill, Big 12, tax bill. Every other sentence was about the tax bill. So it's possible. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. That's not what I'm doing. What I am saying, because this is coming from Fresno State sources, and because Big 12 sources are saying we can't confirm that, it's possible that Fresno State is saying, hey, the Big 12 is interested in this. We can confirm it. They've been talking to us to try to get that tax bill passed. Why? Because that would fund stadium expansion and renovations. It was already turned down last, I think, November by a thin margin. It wasn't like overwhelming, so it wouldn't take much to get it flipped, but it's possible. I'm not sure if the Big 12 is actually interested in Fresno State, just like I never thought the Big 12 was interested in San Diego State. Now, I did a few videos where I thought it wouldn't be a bad idea to try to get those teams to try to cut off the Pac-12 from, any potential future members, but I never actually thought that they were interested in San Diego State. So just the way it was worded, I was like, wait, San Diego State, why would they inform the Big 12? Because I didn't hear that the Big 12 was interested in them. Who knows? John Teal, thank you for the $10 donation, says, those 6 ACC teams you had left over, add Notre Dame and Tulane, Memphis, UConn, pick one. Okay, so you pick one out of Tulane, Memphis, or UConn. Gotcha. And that gives you 8. Then add the 6 teams you said from the PAC plus San Diego / Fresno. That's 16 with name brands. John, I'm going to be honest with you. Those previous names, you're going to have to relist all together because I can't keep up with it because it was separate comments. You don't have to super chat it. You can put it in the regular comments. But I'm trying to keep all this together so I can see the conference all together. I'm like bits and pieces in my brain, but I can't put it all together. So I'd have to see it all together. That's what I'm saying. Speaking of, the last thing I want to talk about as far as what I wanted to hit on today was, so remember when I did a video talking about USF2? Yeah, USF is actually a very underrated brand. It would have actually made sense for the Big 12 to try to get USF with UCF. That would have been a great one to combo. A&M to the Big Ten, I think that's possible in the future. I do. They have a strong hatred for Texas. They have AU status. That would give the Big Ten a footprint in the state of Texas. So I would say it's not like likely, but it's possible. It's not a 0% chance. I would say like 5%, something like that, because they do check all the boxes, and A&M does hate Texas that much. So I would say keep an open mind about that. Not that it's going to happen, but it's definitely possible. I would say that. So I made a video, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, about the Big 12 possibly being interested in Big East teams. And, of course, I got slammed saying that'll never happen. Big East teams don't want to get out of the Big East, even though they would be making more money in the Big 12. And the Big 12 is really not interested in Big East teams because they're basketball only. And the reason I mention that is because Brett Yormark formed a partnership with Rutgers Park in New York City. And, of course, now the Big 12 has conference-wide pro days both in basketball and football. Don't forget he was the co-CEO of the group that managed the New York Nets. He has very, very strong connections in basketball. Okay, well, when was it? It was around 7 or 8. I saw something from the Monty Show, and they talked about from their Big 12 sources that the Big 12 is indeed interested in. Are you ready? UConn and Creighton. UConn and Creighton. So even though I was creating dots and I was connecting those dots, it made sense. I try to explain how I think to people, but I really can't do it. So this is the best way I can explain it. All right. So whenever I see a comment, because everybody knows the Get It Gang by now, right? You leave a comment. If I like it, I'm going to make a video on it. That includes live shows. You make a comment, I'm like, man, I really like that. Makes sense to me. I think other people will enjoy it. That's the biggest thing. If it's something that I think other people will enjoy, that's when I make a video. So whenever I'm thinking of these video ideas and I see your comments, it's not that I think this stuff is really going to happen. It's that I think, man, that's possible, and it would make sense if it happened. And on top of that, people would want to talk about this. So it's not really, oh, I really think that's going to happen type of thing. It's more like, that's possible. And if it did happen, it would make sense. And I really think people would enjoy listening to this and would enjoy talking about this. And so that falls into the category of the video that I made about the Big 12 possibly talking. This was before the Monty Show made anything about that. It was before anybody said anything about the Big 12 interested in Big East teams. It was me looking at what Brett Yormark did. You got a partnership with Rutgers Park in New York City. He has strong connections in the basketball world. And he has said he's wanted to strengthen the west side and the east side. So it just made sense to me. If they're going out and getting Gonzaga all the way out on the West Coast in Washington, it would make sense for them to get one on the East. And the team that I picked was UConn. Now, I listed all the teams in the Big East in the order of highest probability, but number one was UConn. Number one was UConn. And lo and behold, today, the Monty Show comes out and says, hey, my Big 12 sources are saying the Big 12 is interested in talking to UConn and Creighton. Now, Creighton, a little bit of a head scratcher, but at the same time, I mean, they are a big basketball brand. They've made it to where they're starting to make pretty good amount of money, and they're recruiting at a high level. And I think they got to the Elite Eight this year. So that would be just another team in the Big 12 that can make another deep run in the Big Dance. Creighton is in the state of Nebraska. Even though that's not neither East Coast or West Coast, that is a footprint in a new state when it comes to the Big 12, and it's in the core of the Big 12. It actually does make sense. So whenever I made that video about the Big 12 talking to Big East teams, it wasn't me predicting that or saying it's going to happen. It was me saying, hey, I saw that move that Brett Yormark made with the partnership with Rutgers Park. I know that he has strong basketball ties. I know he wants to expand both on the west side and the east coast. So to me, it would make sense. They're going after Gonzaga, which, by the way, expect an announcement about Gonzaga being invited and accepting the invite to the Big 12 in the next, week. I think in the next week, I think is the timetable that I'm hearing. So if they're doing that, then it would make sense to get one on the East Coast. And who should they get on the East Coast? The team that just beat Gonzaga. The team that has the biggest brand that's not in a Power 5 conference. Mighty UConn. And it would help with the travels with, West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF to some extent, I guess. I don't know. It's still far apart. But it makes sense. But if you are going to go after some teams in the Big East, you need to go after multiple teams, because I don't think that UConn would agree to come to the Big 12 if it's just UConn or just UConn and Creighton. Like, I would think it would make sense to go after 4. I would go UConn, Creighton if you want to, but to go with UConn for the Eastern side, Villanova and St. John's. St. John's is in New York City. Sometimes they even play in Madison Square Garden. They play some of their games in Madison Square Garden. So I would take Creighton. If you're going to take Creighton, fine. And then UConn, Villanova, and St. John's. That would make the most sense to me. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. We'll see if it actually happens. It's one thing if these teams talk to a conference. It's a whole completely other story, different story if they actually jump. So we'll see if anything actually happens. But from what I'm hearing, yeah, they're actually interested in the Big East teams, and maybe they saw Golden Blue and be like, that's not a bad suggestion. Just kidding. No, I am nowhere close to being that big yet. But thanks to you guys, we're getting there, and I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully everybody enjoyed themselves. As long as you were entertained, it doesn't matter whether you agree with me or disagree with me. That doesn't matter, because think about it. If everybody agreed with everybody, it'd be kind of boring, to be honest with you. It'd be kind of boring. So it's not whether you agree with me or disagree with me. It's, did you enjoy yourself even if you did disagree with me? And as long as you enjoyed yourself while disagreeing with me, hey, I did my job. So make sure to hit the like button on the way out, even if you didn't catch the live show and you're watching the replay. Those like buttons help a lot. It tells YouTube you kind of sort of like this show, and maybe other people will like it as well. And it gets it suggested more, and that's how we get more views. And we greatly appreciate it. And if you're not a subscriber to Gone Unbloated, please hit the subscribe button. This is what we do. I'm obsessed with college football. I give you my rumors and my opinions, and I don't expect you to agree with me. I don't. Most people actually do disagree with me, and I'm okay with that. That's what keeps this interesting. So even if you disagree with me, as long as you love college football, then I promise you, this is the place for you. This is a home for you. You can come over here if you're having a bad day and your team got stomped and you're mad. Come over here and vent and cuss me out. Whatever, whatever helps your day out. This is your home. This is your home if you're a college football fan. Okay, so hit the subscribe button. Try to get 20,000 before 2024. I think we can do it before the regular season. I think we can, but let's make this goal more reasonable, more attainable, and try to get it by the end of the year. But I really think we can get that 20,000 by the start of this season. Which, by the way, this was the subscriber count right before we went live this evening, 13,590, and we just hit 13,000 not too long ago. So we're still hitting it at a good clip. Appreciate the support, guys. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed yourself. But, guys, I got to wrap this up because I got to do the whole school thing tomorrow. I have to get up early, and I have to stay fresh and have enough energy to put out, halfway decent content for you. I don't want to be, trying to slap myself trying to stay awake. So I got to get enough. Got to get enough sleep and make sure I put out good content and do the whole school routine. Hate to leave you guys. I was having a good time. Hopefully you were having a good time. But yes, I do have to bounce. But for Tuesday, right now, Golden Blue is out.